DBK Story Voice presents It's Never Too Late, Finding Real Love After 60, featuring the true story of David and Floy. There is something that happens to a person at 60. Something quiet, something that takes years to arrive. You stop pretending, not because you've given up on life, but because you finally stop auditioning for it. You know who you are. You know what you will and won't accept. You know the sound of your own laughter, and you've learned not to muffle it for anyone. You have survived things that would have broken a younger version of you. And here you are, still standing, still breathing, still carrying, somewhere underneath the routine and the quiet and the carefully managed days. The very human need to be known, to be seen, to be loved. This message is for you, not the version of you that existed at 25, not for the hopeful, wide-open heart that hadn't yet learned what loss tastes like. This is for you that is right here, right now. A little wiser, a little more careful, a little tired of being disappointed, but still open, still hoping, still wondering quietly in the honest hours whether it's too late. It is not too late. Let me say that again so it lands where it needs to land. It is not too late. Chapter 1. The myth of the expiration date. Somewhere along the way, society handed us a story about love having a season. Spring maybe, or early summer at the latest. Youth, energy, possibility, the right time. And the unspoken message underneath all of this, after a certain age, you've had your chance. I want you to hear me clearly. That story is a lie. Love does not come with the expiration date stamped on the bottom. It is not a seasonal produce. It is not a window that closes at 40 or 50 or 60 or ever. Love is not the exclusive property of the young. Never was, never will be. Consider what you bring to a relationship at 60 that no 25-year-old can offer. You bring yourself fully, without apology. You've done the hard internal work of surviving grief, disappointment, failure, and reinvention. You know what a real conversation feels like, and you cannot be fooled by a substitute. You know the difference between chemistry and character, between excitement and genuine respect, between someone who wants you and someone who simply needs you. That discernment is not a disadvantage. It is the greatest gift you can bring to a love story. Chapter 2. The gift of not quite looking. There's a particular kind of person I want to speak to right now. The person who would describe themselves as not really looking, but not really closed either. The person who has stopped chasing, who has made peace with their own company, who fill their days with meaning, friends, grandchildren, work they love, mornings that belong to only them. And yet, there's a small, persistent flicker, that quiet awareness that someone might still be missing. I want you to know something, that the place you are in right now is the exact place you need to be. Because the people who find love after 60 rarely find it while desperately searching. They find it while living, while being fully present in their own life, while laughing too loudly at a dinner with old friends, while walking through a farmer's market on a Saturday morning, while sitting in a church pew or a library chair or a community meeting, while simply being full with themselves. At 60, you have stopped performing yourself. And the person who is right for you is not looking for performance. They are looking for exactly what you are. Real, seasoned, unafraid of depth. Someone who's been through the fire and is still warm. The most attractive thing a person over 60 can be is exactly who they already are. Chapter 3. Owl of the Unexpected Grace. A true story. I want to tell you about a woman named Floy. Because sometimes the most powerful thing I can offer you is not a principle. It is proof. A true story from Floy. At 63 years old, love was no longer on my radar. I had lived, I had loved, I had divorced, I had healed. I finally made peace with the idea that my season of romance had passed. I wasn't bitter, just settled. I was prepared to enjoy my life, my freedom, my faith, and the quiet beauty of being single. I truly believed that that chapter was closed. She wasn't wounded. She wasn't waiting. She was simply living and living well. Going about the ordinary business of an ordinary day. And on an ordinary afternoon during a quick lunch break, I stopped past Kroger to pick up a pack of Nathan hot dogs. Nothing poetic, nothing special, just running errands of responsibility until I reached the freezer. Now, if you had told Floyd that morning as she got dressed, gathering her things, and headed out into what looked like an unremarkable Tuesday, the rest of her story was waiting for her in the frozen food aisle of a grocery store, she would have laughed politely and then moved on. Because that's not how love works. That is not how real life works. Except it is exactly how it works sometimes. A man was standing directly in front of the hot dogs, completely blocking my access. He wasn't browsing. He was studying the package like he held secrets of the universe, scanning the labels carefully. I waited patiently, though my clock was ticking. Lunch breaks don't wait on destiny. Then he started singing, not casual, not under his breath, but with a voice that stopped me mid-thought. It was distinctive, rich, confident, and completely unexpected in the frozen food aisle. Something about it stirred my spirit, but I brushed it off. I was focused on time and hot dogs, not romance. But then came the nudge. You know the one. The quiet, internal whisper that doesn't come from logic. It doesn't have a rational explanation. It simply says, do this. I felt a gentle nudge inside, say something to him. I ignored it. He began humming next. Still unaware I was standing behind him. Again, that quiet inner voice whispered, say something. I resisted. Surely this was silly. This wasn't a movie. This was Kroger. And it isn't exactly what we tell ourselves. This is just Tuesday. This is just a grocery store. This is just an ordinary moment. And ordinary moments do not produce extraordinary things. Except they do. They always have. I started to walk away, planning to come back later, but his singing caught me again. This time the nudge was stronger. My spirit wouldn't let go. So I blurted out the corniest thing imaginable. You sound like you can sing. She said it herself. Smooth, right? Not the carefully crafted opener. Not a rehearsed line designed to impress. Just the honest, unfiltered, slightly embarrassing truth of a moment she couldn't talk herself out of. He turned around looking slightly nervous, then immediately introduced himself, full name and all. We laughed, and just like that, A simple comment turned into a conversation. Right there in the frozen food aisle, surrounded by hot dogs and grocery carts. We talked for 20 to 30 minutes. We talked like old friends catching up, like two people who felt strongly comfortable with each other. Time disappeared until reality set in. I had to get back to work. We finally parted ways, but he didn't leave my thoughts for the rest of the day. She didn't know it yet, but something had shifted. And something with no drama, not with fireworks or a cinematic score, just quietly. The way real things shift. The way God works, not in spectacle, but in small, specifically timed moments that look from the outside like nothing. Like a man singing in a grocery store. Like a woman who almost walked away. Like a nudge that refused to be ignored. I didn't know it yet, but God had quietly orchestrated a divine appointment in aisle 7. A moment wrapped in ordinary errands, guided by a gentle spiritual nudge, reminding me that love doesn't run on our timelines. It runs on His. At 63, when I'd already closed the door on romance, God opened one through a pack of Nathan hot dogs and a man brave enough to sing in public. Sometimes love doesn't knock. Sometimes it sings. David's story of finding love after 60. There are seasons in a man's life when he makes peace with what he believes will never come again. For David, that season lasted 7 long years. After a divorce that left wounds that no one can see from the outside, David made a quiet decision. He would live the rest of his life on his own terms. Solitude, he discovered, wasn't the enemy. Peace was something worth protecting, and so he protected it. He poured himself into the one place that never let him down, his church. He served in multiple ministries, but had a highly growing experience with the greeters and care counseling ministry, sometimes participating in up to 3 funerals a week. His spiritual life deepened. He felt something growing in him that no relationship had ever given him. A settled sense of purpose. A closeness with God that filled the spaces loneliness used to occupy. He started taking singing lessons 4 days a month and photography lessons once a week. His voice instructor told him that humming a song could warm the voice. And so David began to hum, quietly, almost unconsciously, in grocery store aisles and hardware store. It became as natural as breathing. Sometimes a stranger would stop and say, "You sound really good." And David would smile, a little surprised, but kept on humming. A trusted friend at church suggested something to David that seemed simple enough at the time. "Make a list," he said. "Write down everything you want in a person, in your mate, every detail. Don't leave anything out." David thought about it and wrote his list. Then he tucked it into his memory and didn't think much more about it. Life continued until he ordered a Ninja wood-fire electric grill. Apartment living meant no charcoal or gas, but a man still needs to grill. And on the afternoon of May 21st, 2025, he made his way to Kroger in Bartlett, Tennessee, in search of something worth grilling to his taste. He settled on ground beef for homemade hamburgers and hot dogs. Standing in the hot dog aisle, he pulled out his Yuka app and began scanning barcodes one by one, checking additives, doing what David do, being thorough. After 7 or 8 minutes, he landed on Nathan's famous 8-pack hot dogs. And he was humming. He didn't even realize it. He reached for the package, turned to walk away, and stopped. A woman's voice, calm and curious, asked him a question that he had never been asked in a grocery store. "Are you a singer?" He turned slightly, and there she was. A long dress, a beautiful smile, gray hair that carried itself with a kind of quiet dignity. And when his eyes briefly instinctive dropped to her left hand, there was nothing there. Just a smooth, lovely finger, bare as a new beginning. Yes, he told her, and voiceover too. He explained the voiceover work, the singing lessons, the craft he had spent years perfecting. She listened. Then she said she was an artist too and showed him her phone, her paintings, dozens of them, large ones, small ones, all well crafted to perfection. They stood in the aisle for 30 minutes talking as if the rest of the store had simply dissolved around them. Before she walked away, David reached in his pocket and pulled out a business card, gave it to her and asked, "Would you call me?" She nodded. Yes. He thought about her for the rest of the day, into the evening, through the night. The next morning, she was still on his mind, and when no call came, he did what a man who has learned to live with disappointment does. He filed it away. Another lesson, he told himself, another confirmation that this chapter is closed. Then his phone buzzed. A text message, quiet as a prayer, answered. "Hi, David. This is Floy. We met in Kroger. Will you call me?" He was amazed. He was nervous. He was, if he's being honest, a little scared. But he called. And they talked for 2 hours without stopping. Two people who had both, in their own ways, made peace with being alone, discovering together that peace and love don't have to compete. From that day forward, Floyd has been the very first voice he hears in the morning and the last voice he hears at night. David went back to that list his friend had told him to write. Every quality, every hope, every detail of the person he had imagined but stopped believing he would ever find. He read it slowly, and then he smiled, because Floyd had checked every single box, then gone beyond with the expectations of his desire. Who says love isn't floating in the air? They are getting married in April 2026. David would tell you himself, he found love after 60, and it is, in every way that matters, a wonderful feeling. If you're listening to this and wondering whether it's too late, it isn't. Write the list. Keep humming. Show up. You never know what's waiting for you in the next hour. Chapter 4. What love feels like now. Floyd's and David's story is not a fairy tale. It is not a romantic comedy. It is a Tuesday afternoon in a grocery store. And that is precisely what makes this extraordinary. Because love at this stage of life doesn't arrive on cue. It doesn't announce itself with drama. It arrives in the middle of your regular life, in the middle of your errands, in the middle of a moment you were ready to walk away from. Love after 60 is different. It arrives more quietly. It feels like falling, and more like recognition, like meeting someone and feeling beneath the conversation a sense of being with you cannot explain. A feeling that says, there you are. I didn't know I was still looking, but here you are. It is steadier, more honest, more deliberate. It says, I choose you, not because I need to be completed, but because being with you makes me more fully inside. It is built on mornings, not just evenings, on conversations that goes somewhere real, on laughter that doesn't need an audience, on two people who have been through enough to know that this is worth protecting. Chapter 5. Your owl is waiting. I don't know where your owl is. It may not be a grocery store It may be a church lobby, a community garden, or a park bench. It may be a conversation that starts over coffee at a place you almost didn't go. It may be a friend's dinner party you nearly declined. It may be an app on your phone that you downloaded and deleted 3 times before finally leaving it open. But here's what I know. It is there. Your moment is there. Your nudge is coming. The question is whether you'll be present enough to feel it. Whether you'll be brave enough, even when it feels ridiculous, to say something, to stay. You have survived so much and rebuilt yourself more than once. You have learned to be happy on your own, and that is not a small thing. That is a profound thing. But happiness on your own and a joy shared with someone who truly sees you, who truly gets you. They are not the same, and you deserve both. Cupid does not check IDs. He does not look at your age and move on. He does not pass over the woman who is already loved and lost. He does not skip the man who swore he was done with it all. He shows up in the frozen food aisle, in the ordinary moments, in the spaces between life you've planned and the life still being written. Your story is not finished, not even close. Closing. The door God opens. Floy walked into Kroger for hot dogs. She walked out with something she had stopped believing was possible. Not because she was looking, but because she was open. Because when the nudge came, she listened. Because she was brave enough to say the corny thing, to stay in the aisle one moment longer than logic suggested. That is all it takes. Not desperation, not a perfect profile or curated vision of yourself. Just openness, just presence, just the willingness to believe, even after everything you've been through, that the best chapters are not always the early ones. If you are 60 or 65 or 70 and you are listening to this right now, I want you to hear this as clearly as you've ever heard anything. You are not too old. You are not too broken. You are not too set in your ways. You are not too anything. You are exactly the person someone out there is hoping to find. Someone who's lived enough to be real, who has heard enough to be kind, who has learned enough to be patient, who is finally, fully, beautifully themselves. This has been a DBK Story Voice production. I'm David Kelley, and it's never, not ever, too late. Special thanks to Lorraine Kelly Bullock for encouraging us to tell our story. To Floy and David for the courage to share their story and for reminding us all that love still sings. Have a good day.